And pardon me for any mistakes. Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. We can't see who's out there, but I know there's a few people out there. So, welcome to 108 Humanity. Nice to have everybody join us tonight. And tonight's our first podcast. So, bear with us. But I know we're all really happy that we're doing this and we're live. And thank you to StreamYard for providing this app and this solution for us to do it. So, hopefully, it'll be awesome. So, my name's Mary Lou. I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute because I like myself with my glasses off better. So my name's Mary Lou Anderson, and what you see behind me, I live with my partner up on the Yamba Indian Reservation in northern Nevada, about 3 hours east south of Reno. And so you're kind of seeing a pretty rustic environment up here. We live at about 7,000 feet up in the mountains. We've got a nice fire behind us. So we're really happy and blessed and grateful to live here. And when we don't live here, we live in Las Vegas. I have a house in Las Vegas, Nevada. So radical, absolutely radical change and scenery and life and environment. So big blessings for both of us. So that's what you're seeing in the background. And we've got three lovely ladies and the fourth one joining us in a minute who are going to be our podcasters and our invitees tonight. So tell you a little bit about 108 Humanity real quick. And first off, a little bit about me. So I have lived half a lifetime, and I woke up January 1st, 2023 from a dream, and truly it came out as 108 Humanity. And I went outside, had a cup of coffee, said my prayers, and everything came to me in a flood. And so what does that mean? What does it mean? So 108 is a very auspicious number. Tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. It's a very sacred number. It's believed across the planet and around the world in so many cultures and so many belief systems that the number 108 is our direct divine connection to God, to your God, to spirit, to creator, to source, to the universe, to the stars, to the light, to whatever you believe in from a soul level. So me, I spent first half of my life doing HR work, doing people work in truly mainstream America and mainstream world, and kind of segued into technology, which was more mainstream. And at the same time, I found technology. I also found myself and spirituality. And so the heart of me is a healing woman, spiritual person. Um, I work with a lot of women in particular. This is not a women centric podcast by any means. This is a human centric podcast. I happen to work with a lot of women, do a lot of spiritual work, absolutely a lot of yoga. I own my own company, Spirit and Serve, which you see on the bottom. And please click like and subscribe also to this YouTube station. So I teach a lot of yoga, a lot of meditation, a lot of pranayama, which is the yoga of breath, and do a good amount of healing work with people. I know I'm a healer, not because I heal people, but because I help people remember how to heal. So that's a little bit about me. Um, and so a little bit about 108, and we're still waiting for one more podcaster. I see her coming in, so this is perfect timing. So a little bit more about 108. Spirit didn't really tell me necessarily, didn't tell me necessarily how to go about 108 humanity, but being a yogi and a yoga instructor and teacher and business owner of the truest sense, not Western sense, but worldly sense. I know it's a divine number. And Maria, in her bio, I'll share a little bit more about each of our podcasters tonight. Maria is also a yogi and instructor and teacher and practitioner. So very auspicious number. The 108 has been used since seriously 70,000 BC. There were 108 beads found in Central Africa, likely the beginning of our planet Earth, way back 70,000 years ago. From there forward, there was so much connection to the number 108 from the Buddhist, from a great gentleman by the name of Siddhartha. For those of you who are into spirituality and into learning just about humanity as a whole. It's a great book to read. It's a very easy, short read. Siddhartha was visited by Buddha, and Buddha basically said, use 108 beads to pray for humanity, to pray for the world, to pray for the earth. And so from there it goes on, and there's quite the list. And I'm going to put my glasses on for a minute because I think it's important. Maybe everybody watching understands just how auspicious the number is. So all kinds of belief systems, all kinds of religions aspire and use 108. The Hindus do, the Buddhists do, practitioners of astrology. Interesting, there's 12 houses and there's 9 planets multiplied. That's 108, right? Stonehenge is 108 feet in diameter. Jainism has 108 virtues. Sikhism, dear friends, 6. The Sri Yantra and the human body have 108 points. And each human has masculine and feminine qualities, which we all know, Shiva and Shakti. Most of us know that. 54 each, 54 points each, doubled as 108, right? The Tibetans, right? Tibetans have 108 sacred holy books. Gnosticism, which I found really interesting. Gnosticism's belief is that each human has 108 chances or 108 lifetimes to expel the ego and transcend the material world into the spirit world. Taoism, the Wu Chi, for those of you who may practice that, has 108 postures, okay? Islam, 108 means God. The Bible, interestingly, the words firstborn and in truth and to forgive are used 108 times throughout the Bible. It's amazing, right? The Mayan culture, temples in both Belize and Guatemala are both 108 feet tall, right? The Christian practice. This is really interesting, and I want to make sure I get it right, so I'm going to read it. From All Souls Day, which is November 2nd of each year in the Christian belief system, to Christmas, which is 12/25, right, has 54 days, okay, and 54 nights, as light transcends to darkness and darkness back to light 108 times. Pretty amazing, okay? The Chinese 108 is the absolute luckiest number. And interestingly, for those of you, and I know Darlene's just joined us, I'm going to introduce you to the podcasters in a minute. Interestingly, Leonardo Fibonacci always believed that 108 is the number of wholeness of existence. Very auspicious number. So, I am humbly grateful that this came to me, and off we go with our podcast this evening. So how did 108 humanity translate into a podcast? My partner and I sat down and without any effort came up with a half a dozen categories of topics that basically we both feel, and all of us feel, are of the utmost of importance right now on our earth, right? Topics that need to be learned, that need to be spoke again, that need to be sung about again, topics that our elders carry in their heart, but we want them to teach, right? We want to carry it forward. And so we came up with about 6 or 7 categories. And so what you're going to find in 108 Humanity is these categories, and under each category there's going to be a topic, and that topic is going to be the episode for the evening. So social and life activism is one of the topics. Life-saving teachings, which is kind of broad, but there's a lot of teachings out there, which you'll find out this evening. Let me see here, sacred earth gifts, which also sounds kind of broad. So that could be anything from the elements, from the fire, the air, the water, the spirit, the earth, to medicines. Okay. Let me see here. Put my glasses back on. Spiritual living and learning. Okay. We have a hodgepodge category for everything that doesn't fit in, and the other ones we talked about. And then we have one called Healing Medicines of the World, right? So tonight, our topic actually falls under social and life activism. And I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to introduce our beautiful podcasters this evening. So we are going to start. Hello, Darlene. Nice to see you. I hope you can can hear us? Can you hear us? We cannot hear you. So let's see what we can do about that.
She is muted.
I am. I'm on.
Welcome. Welcome. So we'll just start with Darlene. So welcome. So this is Darlene Nia, really good friend of mine and sister. Darlene's based out of Portland now, but she probably say she's based out of the earth. So she and I have known each other for years and years, and lots of spiritual circles and yoga circles and healing circles and life circles. So a little bit about Darlene, and I want to be respectful to everybody's words. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about Darlene this evening. She's a muse. Darlene is a muse. She is definitely a muse, without any doubt. Since the early 80s, her mission and her purpose has always been multimedia. So she had a career full of multimedia, which spans, oh my gosh, Darlene's done so much TV work. She's done newsletters for years and years and years, magazine, right? Magazine for years and years and years and years. And so, in her words, exploration, experience, and sharing. That's what she's about. That's what her life has been about. She's heavy into alternative medicine in a good way, which I think all five of us are this evening. One of many of her missions. Health and wellness practices for ourselves. I think that's where you've landed now. That's your forte. Staying a step ahead and helping our earth as you help yourself, right? By the way, anybody who wants to learn more about Darlene, zenfulliving.org, zenfulliving.org. So welcome this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
I might switch this around. Let's see how this looks like. So everybody bear with us. There we all are. Beautiful, beautiful. So our next guest tonight is Vera Anderson. And so Vera is up in the top in the middle. So welcome, sister. Oh, nice to see you, honey. So I've known Vera for a long time. Vera's a fellow social justice and peace activist. And she's quite the amazing young woman. She is a mental health counselor student right now. So we're all students, right? Always a student, always learning. She's in the mental health field right now. She is based out of New York City. How's New York?
New York is getting warm. It's good. It's full of energy. A lot of different energy, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to move here. But yeah, I love it. It's lively.
Good. Well, big blessings for technology that all of us can get together from across the globe without too much issue here. So nice to see you, Vera.
You too. Thank you.
We're all in different places. That's funny, isn't it? Yep. So, by the way, and really importantly, Vera's a writer. She's an amazing vocalist. She's an amazing songstress, a beautiful, heavenly voice. A lot of power, a lot of love in that voice. And also a musician. Works a lot on spiritual design for herself and for others. A lot of peace activism, a lot of community organizing, and music ed. So happy to have you tonight.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, beautiful. My next dear friend and sister is Maria Minnick. And so this is our Go Live tonight. I call it Go Live. That's a techie term. This is our first live. Sorry about that. And this is our first tonight. So StreamYard's a little sketchy sometimes with mobiles. And so Maria's here in spirit. And hopefully we can see her. Hopefully we can see her really soon.
I know. I'm not sure what's going on with this camera thing.
Okay. Well, we're live. It's all good. So sometimes it's better to be heard than to be seen. Right. So welcome, my dear sister.
Thank you so much.
Not with you, but just each other.
I'm happy to be here.
So Maria, Maria is a beautiful woman, beautiful sister. We've known each other for quite a few years. She's a field biologist. She has a master's in biodiversity and conservation. Maria is definitely a world traveler. She's been to over 88 countries. She's lived in 6 different countries. She is an incredible yoga teacher in the true form, again, in the truest form, in the Hindi form, in the Vedic form, and the practitioner of the Vedas and practitioner of all the arms of yoga. She's a beautiful yoga teacher. She speaks 5 different languages. She loves to chant and practice bhakti yoga, chanting and mantra. She and I pray a lot together in different circles. Which is beautiful. She's a huge human rights and social justice activist. Welcome, dear.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really glad to be here. What a blessing. Thank you.
Awesome. And last but by no means least, I want to introduce everybody to Candace Kant. So Candace is up in the right-hand corner. So she is a long-time sister and friend and partner. Candace has an amazing background. She is a avid pagan practitioner of paganism. I'll read you her bio in a second. Like to speak from my heart a little bit with each of you. So I'm really happy that Candace has decided to be a podcaster, and hopefully all of you will want to do it every month. Actually, Candace she and I have done a lot of social justice work together. For the earth, for humanity. We're also, Candace is on the Interfaith Council Board of Directors, along with myself here in Southern Nevada. And so you might consider Candace and I a little bit of the catalyst for the interfaith movement down here. So we're the ones that have a tendency to turn the tables all the time and think about the earth and think about humanity and bring it back to reality a little bit out of the brick and mortar church and a little bit into the brick and mortar earth, I guess you could say. So really happy to have you here. Candace is a PhD. You are welcome. PhD and emeritus professor of history, actually. We talked about paganism. She is an adherent of goddess spirituality, absolutely a devotee of Sekhmet. And we actually have a temple of goddess spirituality to Sekhmet in Cactus Springs, which is not too far north of Las Vegas, Nevada. So that's where she does a lot of her work. You've written a couple books. You've edited a couple books. Co-editor of Stepping Into Ourselves, an anthology of writings on priestesses, and Heart of the Suns, Sekhmet. You've done a lot. You've developed courses in paganism. Candace also chairs the Department of Theology and Religious History for Cherry Hill Seminary, which is located back east. And again, as I mentioned, she's on the Interfaith Council, Southern Nevada, as a few of us are. So welcome, Candace.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So happy to be
So this might have been a little long.
Really glad.
So this might have been a little long tonight, and give us a little leeway, everybody. I think you're going to enjoy the podcast here in a few minutes. I think it's really important to honor everybody's identity. So it might have taken a little while, but all feedback appreciated. Excuse me, but I think it's really important to introduce everybody and to kind of let you know who you're dealing with here and who you're going to be hearing from. So these women are game changers, and myself included, and really walking the talk and really walking the purpose and the mission of 108 Humanity, of living and rebirthing our planet, okay, and our humanity in a good way, in a positive way, in a creative way, in a seeding way, in an intelligent way, in a way from the goddess, way from the heart, way from the womb. And so I think you're going to enjoy our topic tonight. And again, this is a place, to learn from really good people, right? Really good people who have spent the better part of their lives doing for others as they do for themselves. So welcome, ladies. You're the connectors. You're the spiritual gurus and giants. You're the elders. You're the angels, and so much more. So much more. So Finally, people are probably saying, let's get to the episode. So tonight, for our kickoff, which was kind of interesting because I didn't know we were going to have all women, but we do. But my partner's here, Johnny, and he's holding down the fort. So tonight, the topic falls under social and life activism. Okay. And I want to let y'all know, too, that our podcasters don't know what the topic's going to be until midday, the day of the podcast. Okay. And so, and again, they all carry wisdom. So everybody carries all kinds of good dialogue and discussion inside of them. So tonight is social and life activism. And so episode number 1 is about women's justice. Okay. So I'm going to be quiet in a minute here. So here's the topic. Women are absolutely rising around the globe in so many ways. The feminine, right? The Shakti. Shiva's Shakti. Okay.
Yes.
All around the globe. So what are our thoughts? So this is kind of a 3-part question. So what are your thoughts on the power of the goddess? And power is a pretty heavy word, but what are your thoughts on the power of the goddess and the really mighty thrust towards equanimity, okay, and beyond? And then, so what are your thoughts about that? And then, we'd be interested to hear, and I'll kind of facilitate as I need to, but a little bit about your viewpoint and your own personal work, okay, on this global balancing of Pachamama, of Mother Earth, right? So,
Okay.
So women are rising around the globe. What's your thoughts on the power of the goddess and the thrust towards equanimity? Like, how do you feel about that? How do you see it? Just open it up to anybody who wants to speak first.
I'd like to say that a lot of Western civilization, cultures, European, North American, well, not even North American, because I'm not talking about the indigenous cultures I'm talking about the colonizers, have repressed women and the divine feminine for so long, for hundreds and hundreds of years, through repressive religions such as Puritanism, Catholicism, and it's not being repressed any longer, and Islam as well. It's
Right.
just, there's no way you can't keep women down and the divine feminine down. It was only a temporary, but it's rising so strong. Like, look at all these protests in Iran and Afghanistan. Right. I volunteer with Amnesty International, and I recently attended their annual general conference in San Diego back in March. And I attended a really amazing talk by a PhD student named Hasina Jalal, and then an amazing Iranian women's studies professor from University of California, Northwood. And wow, like, especially Hasina Jalal's story, she had to hide the fact that she was going to school. She was getting, because her, literally, just like Malala, her life was at risk just by going to school. So her act of resistance was just going to school. And then as for higher education, she actually had to go to an Islamic school in India to get her bachelor's degree, because there was no chance of going anywhere in Afghanistan because all the universities were closed to women. And then now she's on a PhD scholarship at the University of Iowa. And wow, what a story. It's like, some of these sisters have had it so much harder than us. And, their talk brought me to tears, because it's just like, just to go to simple elementary school, she was literally risking her life. It was so like, and now she's a PhD student about to become a doctor. And so, wow, so admirable, just because she was so determined to get an education.
That's truly an amazing story. Thank you.
Yeah, and no problem. Yeah, it touched me so deeply. And also, like, it kind of almost hurts when I hear kids, like entitled kids here, complaining, I hate school. It's like, no, you need to hear Hasina Jalal's story. If you hate school, she was fighting for her life to go to school, and you're sitting there complaining about, I hate school. Like, really, so it's interesting how how we take things for granted when we have everything, and how some people have to fight for their lives for something that we just take for granted.
I
And you know
do
what?
I do
Go
agree that the goddess is reappearing. The goddess is resurfacing. But sometimes when I turn on the TV and I listen to the news, which is depressing anyway,
Sure.
I think, oh my gosh, what is going on?
Yeah.
We knew this would happen. This is the death throes of patriarchy. We knew
Yes.
patriarchy would not go away peacefully.
No way.
But what we're seeing is women resisting, and that power of women is absolutely undeniable.
Yeah.
Undeniable.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And, and that's why one of the reasons we're doing this 108 Humanity, because everybody who's going to be a podcaster is powerful in their own sense. And you talked about TV, right? So, I don't think the women rising are watching too much TV anymore, right? So I think everybody's rising above and beyond it, right? It's scary. We have the TV
It's so
here,
manipulative.
Oh, the
It's so
media, the
manipulative.
mass media is so biased and manipulative. It
It's
absolutely is. Yeah.
It's awful.
Yep. I mean, I really feel
Well-
like there's a mighty thrust towards this whole equanimity thing, this whole, not downing the patriarchy, but massaging it and
Oh, yeah.
Well-
coming back to an
Right.
equanimity, a
Right.
place of equanimity and equality.
Yeah, looking for balance, I think. Because the divine masculine is also injured by patriarchy.
Thank
Big
you.
time.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're looking for balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, because
Yes, we are.
Well, and I think that we can do that. The women in this country, I think, are a little out of balance for their femininity. They're taking it to an extreme level. I think the balance is, and we've done over the years, it's been all about the goddesses, and it feels like to me, the men have been left out, even though they chose to. And I think the equanimity is going to be when we include the men. They've been wounded as well, right? They've been trained to be the way that they are, especially in this country. I mean, in other countries, it's a much deeper rooted situation. But here, I was just going to say, it's one man at a time. I mean, it's like we should treat people like human beings and not whether they're, and we know that, right? And so I think as kind of the forerunners, even when we hold different events, it's to me always to include the men and invite them and invite them and invite them.
Yes.
They're really they're such in another mind program. They haven't even found their hearts, most of them.
That's
right. So, I mean, the women, the goddesses have to take a lead, I think.
Riane Eisler,
Yeah,
if
I
I'm
think
pronouncing
it's very
her name.
generational.
Anyway, Riane Eisler has what she calls the partnership model,
Mhm.
which
Yes.
I really like the whole concept of it, the partnership.
Definitely.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it's also
Go ahead,
interesting to think when thinking about media or television or just technology in general. Although they can be very manipulative, to think of the voices that had been silenced in some of these countries, how the work that they've been doing has really been showing up across the screens.
That's true.
I think there is some good in there because the information wasn't getting to us, 15 years ago, as quick as it is now, because it's on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and, all of the things. And I think it's important to be able to see how those voices are carrying women's voices, that feminine energy around our world. And when I
Yes.
think about it, the way that it spreads like fire, like through technology, it reminds me of the Phoenix, so it's like, you're really coming out of that fire, ready to really be able to speak up. Like I think it's really important to think about the care that women all around the world need, because I think that it's
Mm.
really, I think
Mm.
that women have always fought. There has not been a time in history when women have not needed to fight
Right.
for their humanity, for their femininity, for their masculinity, for their careers, for their spirituality, for their love. And so I think it's very important to remember, like, to retreat, like that retreat. Like, yes, I want to use my voice and, be able to speak up, especially because so many women have been silenced, but to also, like, just to be able to, like, retreat, like, in my own, like, comfort, and
Right.
like to be comforted. It's like, when do women get that, because we're doing all this work. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's really where I am. And even seeing so many women, in the media, or just in real life, not even just in the middle, all like women that I know in my life. So to be able to watch them and just think, like, yo, I see you doing all this work, but, like, make sure we're, like, working and, like just hugging ourselves and kind of doing what we need to do so we can continue to use our voices and spread, so they can spread like fire.
Right. Right.
Definitely.
So, ladies, yeah, and I absolutely agree with everything everybody said, and could probably add a lot more to it. I think there's a lot to be said about, I feel it's meant to happen, and there's no mistakes, and we all know from a heart level that, eventually, the feminine was going to rise back up, to Darlene's point, to meet the masculine, because we have to do some of this, right?
Right.
To kind of get here, because from a humanity standpoint, right, we're all female and we all are male, and we all are male and we all are female, and we're all Shiva and we're all Shakti, right? So we
Right.
have all of that flowing through us. So I'm going to throw a question out to you real quick. What I've seen, I think generational has a lot to do with where women are. Take a look at our grandmothers and our mothers, and then ourselves, and then our daughters. And I think it's posed different challenges in where we are this very moment. And I also see a lot culturally. So I'm curious what you all have kind of experienced. There's certainly cultures that have been more oppressed overall than others have been. And, like to Maria, to your earlier point, right? And I spent, almost a month in Afghanistan and saw that. Culture seems to have a lot to do with where the growth and how the growth is happening. So I'm kind of curious
Absolutely.
what you all have experienced or actually feel about that. And, keeping in mind that, we're here on this podcast to just share what we've learned, right? So every answer is a good answer.
Well, I figure some cultures already get it. I remember, like, I went in the year 2000. I spent a few months in China, and in the southern province of Yunnan that borders Thailand and Laos. There's a tribe called the Naxi, 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 and they're a matriarchal society, and they've been that way for thousands of years.
Wow.
And the women run the businesses, the women run the commerce, the women are head of the families, head of the households. And that blew my mind, because I was still a young 20-something back then. And I was like, wow, there are cultures out there that the women are in charge, and, they run the show. And that was really eye-opening for me. And then also the Shipibo tribe in Peru, the ones that usually facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies. Melissa Pellegrini, I'm not sure if you guys know her or not, but she would facilitate some ceremonies at her place. And the shaman that she had facilitate some of the ceremonies invited us to his village in Peru. And the head shaman was his aunt, Maestra Justina. And they're also a matriarchal society. The head shamans, everything, they're women. And so I guess, that really points to, I guess, indigenous cultures already getting it. You know, it's the
Some of it.
the paid, not all, of course. Yeah, I'm just saying that the examples I saw were indigenous, and they've been doing this for thousands of years. So that was really nice to
Beautiful.
see. So it's not just everywhere that women are oppressed. It was, and I mean, even in ancient Egypt, you know, you had, like you said, Sekhmet and Cleopatra and all these, you know, powerful women leaders. And then Islam came and now, you know, changed all that. So yeah, it's interesting how maybe in some point in history, women were powerful, and then, you know, this era came that repressed the divine feminine. But yeah, now it's rising again. So that's really nice to see.
Well,
You know,
I teach.
you know,
I teach a class
I was
called
just going to
Goddess.
say real quick, Janice, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
There's a break.
Anyway, I teach a class called Goddess Traditions, and in that, at the College of Southern Nevada, and in that we explore the early Paleolithic and Neolithic societies that were egalitarian. If you don't
Wonderful.
like the term matriarchal, some people don't.
Yeah.
They were egalitarian societies. And then we talk about what happened to them. And I give them a handout with 16 different theories about what happened to them.
Wow.
Wow.
And you know,
There's also
the theory that
there's
I buy
also
into the most, the theory I buy into the most is one that was proposed by James DeMayo, who is a geographer. And his theory is it was climate change.
Interesting.
Climate change. Because this lush area of land then became arid, dried up, and the people had to move. They had to become refugees. They had to move. And in the course of moving, these patriarchal attributes come to the fore, and then they're passed down in the way we raise children. It's an amazing book, but it's the
What's
one
it
that
called?
It's really interesting.
Saharasia.
Okay.
So their roles had to change.
By James DeMayo.
Yeah, their roles
Thank you
had
for
to
sharing.
change. James DeMayo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Which
good.
is a little
Yeah, I was
scary
just going to add to.
since we're seeing climate change today and lots of people who are refugees all over the world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was just going to add, and I will actually put it in the YouTube chat later, but I cannot recall the name of it, and I really should have thought about it beforehand. But there's just a great documentary that a woman put together, basically the history of not only the goddess Candace, but the history of the divine feminine going back 1,000 years and cultures all over the world. And it's a really great documentary. And she spent about 1.5 years traveling all these cultures, to Japan and to China, to the Americas and to Europe and what have you. And it's a great kind of overview of, you know, to Maria, to your point, you know, where some cultures and some countries, you know, and definitely some countries in Africa, you know, where women had been the goddess for forever, right? And they were making things happen, and they were in charge, you know. And then you know, the times like spent in Afghanistan, right, where they're oppressed, you know, and you know, a little bit of what anyhow, it's a great documentary, and I'll put the name of it for sure in the YouTube share. And just, you know, adding living with indigenous folks and Native Americans, I will tell you, hands down, these indigenous women have it together. So they keep it together. So when we go back to the beginning of time as we know it on this continent, right? And there's a book somewhere inside of me, you know, about this. But when we go back to the beginning of time, I mean, the warriors were the warriors, you know, and so, and I've experienced it pretty firsthand, right? I mean, you know, the men did what they did, and so you needed to eat, and so they had to go to the mountains, and if the horses weren't ready, they walked, you know, with their arms, and they hunted, and they dragged it back, and they cleaned it. And so what were the women doing? They were giving birth to the children. They were teaching the children. They were cooking. They were cleaning, and they were using their brain to stay alive, where the guys were up there doing what they needed to do, you know. And so it's interesting to see, fast forward now, from an indigenous standpoint, and I have a few, you know, pretty dear friends, women friends who are elders. As the world shifts, they have it at a soul level. They they want to shift with it. But I believe some of the indigenous cultures, and Lord knows I'm not speaking for anybody, but the one I live amongst, in some cases, the storyline is still the same. The men still consider themselves the warriors, and the women are supposed to stay home and raise the babies and cook and clean, right? So it's kind of interesting for me to have experienced this. But wise women, I know you wanted to talk, Darlene, so sorry about that.
No.
You know, just to comment, I don't know. I participated in the Women's March in 2017, January of 2017. That was phenomenal. Women all over the world came out, women and men. And that feeling of all of us working together in concert was amazing.
Beautiful.
And maybe energetically, we've been through a time period where it is the masculine energy, and now the feminine is coming back in. So again, to embrace it, and everybody, for the feminine to come back in, and I in real time, when we're dealing with men, they may have their rough side, but again, if we keep coming through as the genuine goddess and the lighter side, I believe we can harmonize that. It takes each one of us to do that. History does this, and other countries do this, and I feel like we all have to do our part to make, to harmonize it. I mean, to me, I think that's the beauty of being, as you're spiritually awakening, we realize that we are all one, and it doesn't matter your outer, it matters who you are,
Right.
and I think us as leaders should encourage that. It's like, as the women were marching, thank goodness there were men, because the men need to be a part of it. They're hurting. They love their mothers, and they are women. So it's not like they want to be that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Very true.
yeah, we're kind of having to train them, and I think that is by including them. Just keep including them.
Amen.
I
So
also
believe it or
know
not,
that
we've got about 5 minutes left. So we've got about 5 minutes left, ladies, because really wanting to keep this to about 45 minutes. And, yep. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to shift it just a little bit to kind of end it with a bang. So each one of you, and again, we all know each other and we all love each other, so I know it. But you have a lot to share and a lot to teach, and you're doing it. So all of you live your lives. All of us, we live our lives walking the talk. Most definitely. So who knows who's going to watch this? I mean, hopefully it's going to, not hopefully, I know it's going to explode.
Yeah. I was just going to add one point real quick, that also in a trip to New Zealand back in 2014, we visited the Waitangi, where the treaties were signed with the British, the Maori indigenous population and the British. Yeah, and back then in the 1800s, some of the Maori chiefs who signed that treaty were women. So they were chiefs in the 1800s. And that really impressed me.
Awesome. Awesome.
So
I don't want to say that, women aren't superior, because we're so multifaceted in so many ways. We really are the hierarchy, but we love and adore the males, so yeah. But I mean, what you're saying is not amazing. It's like it's the way it should be, because we are pretty brilliant beings.
Well, we bring up the children, don't we? We bring up both the girls and the boys.
Yeah, we do, and we need the men. So it's 100%. It's definitely 50-50. And Maria, I got to tell you, one of the most amazing women I ever met in my lifetime was a Maori elder woman who was a chief. And I met her at the Parliament of World's Religions about 5 years ago in Salt Lake City. And she gifted me with some incredible medicine that I will never forget. So it is a small world. So one final question, ladies, because we've got about 4 minutes here. Okay. So this is great. It's a great conversation. What do you want to share? One thing for all the women watching, because even though we're women and we're strong women and we're powerhouses, and we're blessed to be all this, the 5 of us on here today, we also have human lives, and we fall, right? So one final question, right?
I
What
have
words
an
of
answer.
wisdom do you have for the ladies?
Number one, honor
Go ahead.
yourself. Number two, learn to say no in the most graceful way you can and learn to back away.
And number three, be kind to yourself. You're not always perfect all the time. You're a human being.
Just honor yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace, 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 grace,
Yes.
grace.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't be afraid to be authentic.
Marie?
If you feel like, oh, nobody's gonna like what I do or who I am, oh, I better dim my light to not freak others out. No, just don't. Just don't, because the ones who you'll freak out aren't your people,
Right.
and the
True.
ones you'll
Absolutely.
attract the ones who are your people. So there you go.
Very true. Very true.
Very true. And I will say, trust your heart and trust your intuition, and you follow that heart. You follow that heart in everything you do, and every word that comes out of your mouth, every thought you have about yourself, right? As well as the rest of humanity, and you are on the right track. And ladies, I want to thank you tonight. This is our first podcast, so I hope everybody comes back. So subscribe to the page and hit a like. We're going to be doing this once a month, and we'll have different attendees. But I just have to say that for those of you who are watching, you're surrounded by good people here. Good people, good, solid, deep people, good women who have broken down and have risen again. I know that. That's all 5 of us. And it's the pattern. That's part of humanity. So I'm just really humbled that each of you wanted to come on tonight. And
Thank you.
we will hopefully see you all next week. And blessings to everybody out there. And give us some good feedback. Give us any kind of feedback. Maria, thank you. Can't wait to see your beautiful face the next go around. Darlene, I love you. So good to see you. Thank you. Candace, you're just
Love you
a
so
rock star
much.
in my book. Thank you. And Vera, love you. You're just dynamite.
Love you.
You just move mountains with your brains and your words. So blessings, everybody. Have a beautiful night. And
Thank
we will
you
see
so
you next
much.
month.
Thank you. Peace.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, humanity. Share the love. Bye-bye.
Much love.
Mhm.